Welcome to the Royal Road School of Carmelite Prayer. A link to the Praying with Teresa of Avila website has been provided below to enable you to find the catalog of offerings on this channel, along with the notes of today's presentation. A retreat on the role of prayer in the life and teachings of Saint Teresa of Jesus. An overview of the life and teaching of Saint Teresa of Jesus of Avila, first woman doctor of the Church, 1515 through 1582. Even though there is a danger in summaries and simplification, still there is also an opportunity to achieve greater insights, which may then be applied during our detailed study of the life and writings of Saint Teresa of Avila. The analogy of a castle. Daughter of Avila de los Caballeros, Saint Teresa quite expectedly shows herself conversant with the analogy of a castle, which she employs to reveal the wonders of the interior life and the means that lead to the perfection thereof. Successfully, she is able to invest the principal elements of her thought with the features of her comparison. Even the enemies of the soul provide a clever, integral detail, for they are the reptiles and other creatures to be found in the outer court of the castle. Let us now turn to our castle with its many mansions. You must first not imagine these mansions as arranged in a row, one behind the other, but fix your attention on the center, the room or palace occupied by the king. Think of a palmito, which has many outer rinds surrounding the savory part within, all of which must be taken away before the center can be eaten. Just so, around this central room are many more, as there are also above it. In speaking of the soul, we must always think of it as a spacious, ample, and lofty place. And this can be done without the least exaggeration, for the soul's capacity is much greater than we can realize. And this sun, which is in the palace, reaches every part of it. Saint Teresa of Jesus of Avila, the author. Saint Teresa of Jesus of Avila wrote all of her works for two main reasons: obedience to her confessors or superiors who wanted an account of her spiritual experiences in order to direct her more securely in the service of the Lord, and to give guidance and instruction to her daughters, the newly established Discalced Carmelite nuns. Teresa cried, when asked for another book, "Let me work at my spinning. I am not meant to write. I have neither health nor the intelligence for it." How could she have known that in 1970, Pope Paul VI would accord her the title Doctor of the Church because of her theological excellence in her writings, intermingling testimony and doctrine of the soul's journey to union with God? The book of her life. It was begun when Teresa was almost 50 years old. In it, she deals mainly with the supernatural realities of the interior life and makes use of some autobiographical materials as a background for the favors of the Lord. She presents a detailed exposition of prayer, its nature, degrees, and effects. Teresa then discusses the sanctifying power of spiritual graces and finally relates the foundation of her first monastery of San Jose. Teresa often referred to her life as a book of the mercies of the Lord. The first volume was translated by Fathers Kieran Kavanagh and Otilio Rodriguez from the critical Spanish edition. It also contains her minor writings, the spiritual testimonies, and her soliloquies. These texts are now available as collected works of St. Teresa of Avila, Volume 1, the Book of Her Life. The Way of Perfection was composed during the first years that St. Teresa guided the small community of San Jose and Avila. It is a practical book of advice and counsel, destined to initiate the Carmelite nun into the life of prayer. One writer called it the Teresian Gospel. Teresa is a teacher throughout this book. She writes of the purpose and goals of her new Carmel, the foundations of prayer, the practice of prayer, and includes a commentary on the Our Father. It was intended as a manual to accompany and explain her constitutions. They were written at the same period to govern the nuns of San Jose and the subsequent foundations. This book is the first part of the collected works of St. Teresa of Avila, Volume 2, The Way of Perfection. The letters of St. Teresa span the years from 1541 until her death in 1582. The years after her foundations inaugurated her largest correspondence. Over 1,000 people are encountered in nearly 500 letters. They reveal her labors, her spiritual graces, her struggles, her health, her concerns for the nuns, and the whole galaxy of friends who entered into her life story and her work to establish the dovecots of the Virgin throughout Spain. Through her letters, Teresa unconsciously throws a strong light upon herself and reveals her qualities of soul and mind, which make her one of the greatest women of all times. The letters were translated by Father Kieran Kavanagh for ICS. Interior Castle. Some traits of persons outside the castle. They are not friends of God. They are in sin. They very seldom pray sincerely, if ever. They are totally taken up in worldly affairs. They avoid hardship and seek pleasure in all. They are concerned about themselves only. They very seldom, if ever, help others, unless for their own good. They are very critical of regular churchgoers and of established religion. Commentary. We could say that they appear to not yet be a God-fearing person. Many freely do wrong, but it does not seem to bother their conscience, either because of lack of training in their faith or because their God seems too far away and irrelevant to their lives. They are busy enjoying the things made by God. But they do not reflect that this is why these things are enjoyable. The beginning of wisdom is the fear of the Lord. They may complain against the Lord. This is already the beginning of prayer. The door is opening. Also, outside the castle are the soul's three enemies: the world, the flesh, and the devil. As we have noted above, Saint Teresa calls these enemies and the temptations that ensue from them snakes, vipers, and poisonous creatures. Either by God's permission for the soul's merit, or because the soul's folly and neglect the vigilance, these enemies may enter into the castle. except the last mansion. Their access to the first three mansions is particularly dangerous, as the union between God and the soul becomes more personal, intimate, and loving. It is to be expected that the devil will display a more personal interest and hatred towards this creature rising so near his lost place in God's affection. By his intervention, the devil demonstrates his unspeakable personal hatred for God, who so loves, and the soul, who is so beloved. Amen.